Everyone thinks they know what makes Libra special, and it is precisely this certainty that will be dismantled in the next few minutes. Because what the world has turned into a cliche, harmony, balance, diplomacy, is only the surface of something that goes much deeper. And the surface, however beautiful it may seem, never tells the real story. There's something inside you that senses tensions no one around you is feeling, that reads what hasn't been said before a single word is spoken, that transforms conflicts into connections in a way that seems simple on the outside, but which on the inside demands a level of perception most people don't have and never will. It's not luck. It's not a pleasant personality. It's not any of the traits that appear in generic summaries about Libra that you've read 1,000 times without feeling like they were really talking about you. These are 6 specific spiritual gifts, 6 abilities that operate within you so deeply and so integrally that they form something no other sign can replicate, no matter how much you observe, no matter how much you try to imitate. And what most Librans never stop to realize is that these gifts sometimes seem like burdens, that perceiving too much is exhausting, that transmuting what is heavy leaves residue, that being a mirror of others over time can make you lose sight of your own image. But there is a fundamental difference between possessing a gift without knowing you have it and recognizing it clearly enough to use it intentionally. This video will show exactly that difference. By the end, something within you will make sense in a way it never has before, not because you'll learn something completely new, but because you'll recognize, with a clarity that's hard to ignore, what's always been there, just waiting to be named. Something strange happens when someone tries to describe Libra to you. They talk about harmony, about balance, about the beautiful, kind person who can never choose between 2 dishes on the menu and smiles while the waiter waits. They speak as if they were describing a room's decor, something pleasant, well-placed, without any jarring edges. And you listen. Maybe you smile. Maybe you agree, because it's always easier to let the world think it knows you than to explain what happens when nobody's watching. But there's a part of you, quiet, patient, ever-present, that knows. What the world calls balance in Libra is not the absence of conflict. It's the result of an internal tension that few people can sustain long enough to reach the other side. What seems like diplomacy isn't polite weakness. It's an almost spiritual gift of seeing what lies beneath what people are saying. What seems like indecision is, more often than not, a refusal to choose before feeling that the choice is truly right. That's what you feel when you sense tension in a room before a single word is spoken. When you understand in a way you can't quite explain what someone needs to hear, even if that person hasn't yet managed to verbalize it. When you look at an environment, a conversation, a situation, and you know on a level that has no exact name, if it's all in the right place or if something is amiss. This is not anxiety disguised as intuition. It is not exaggerated sensitivity. It is not imagination. These are gifts, 6 of them specifically, and they are so unique, so deeply a part of who you are, that no other person, of any other sign, of any other experience, can authentically reproduce the same. Because the biggest trap Libra falls into isn't indecision. It's not the search for others' approval. The biggest trap is spending your whole life carrying these gifts as if they were obligations, and never recognizing that what always seemed like a burden was, in fact, a spiritual language that you were the only one to receive. Everyone has an opinion about Libra. It's the most described, most catalogued, most reduced to a single trait, as if an entire person could fit inside one word: pleasant, harmonious, indecisive. Words that describe the surface, words that Libra has learned to inhabit as if they were the whole truth. When the world oversimplifies something, it's usually because that something is disturbingly complex. A work of art that no one knows how to classify ends up being called beautiful just to end the conversation. A human being who doesn't fit into any box ends up being called difficult to understand, as if that were a flaw to be corrected. Libra is unsettling because it's truly unclassifiable, because it contains layers that most people don't have the vocabulary to name. And that's exactly where the first gift begins, in that ability to perceive what was not said, to read what lies beneath the words, beneath the smiles, beneath the certainties that people present as if they were absolutely solid. Have you ever entered a room, a meeting, a family dinner table, and felt something shift inside you before anything happened, before anyone opened their mouth, before any visible sign? This is not imagination. It's a radar operating at a frequency most people don't even know exists. And the question that remains unanswered for now is, what happens to those who perceive all this? While everyone else around you remains completely oblivious, when you bear the burden of seeing what's wrong, what's out of place, and choose silence because you know speaking up will seem like an exaggeration. It was while searching for answers to this question that I found this digital book, The Divine Path That Guides Your Zodiac Sign to a Life of Purpose. This isn't a book that describes Libra like an encyclopedia entry. It's a resource that does something far rarer. It shows you how to use what you already are, how to transform that perception that seems like a burden into real direction, how the gift of seeing what no one else sees can become the compass for a life that finally makes sense, not to others, but to you. Libras spend a lot of time trying to balance the world around them, and it's precisely in this constant search that they sometimes get lost. This book doesn't ask you to stop being who you are. It invites you to understand why you are the way you are and what to do about it from now on. You are still processing what has been said so far, still recognizing something within yourself that has always been there but never had a name. It is precisely in this state, with the recognition still alive, that this type of content has the most transformative power. Don't wait for the feeling to pass. Don't put it off. The link is in the first pinned comment. But be aware, this content may be taken down. Click now and download your copy. And before we continue, write in the comments, which of these 6 gifts have you always carried as a burden, never recognizing that it was a strength? This radar, the first gift of perceiving what hasn't been said, has no off switch. It doesn't pause. There's no point at which Libra simply stops perceiving and rests. It operates all the time, even when Libra doesn't want it to, even when it would be much more convenient to notice nothing. And that, depending on the day, can be the most beautiful or the most exhausting thing in the world. To perceive too much in a world that perceives too little is a very specific form of loneliness. Not the loneliness of having no one, but the loneliness of being surrounded by people and inhabiting a completely different frequency. Conversations happen on one level, you exist on another. But it is precisely in this space, in this frequency that others do not inhabit, that the second gift is born. Alchemy. The ability to take two seemingly irreconcilable sides, two people in conflict, two clashing points of view, and find, in the middle of them, the place where they can coexist without destroying each other. This isn't diplomacy in the sense of giving in. It's not about finding a mediocre middle ground where nobody is satisfied but nobody fights. It's something completely different. It's about understanding what each side truly wants, not what's being asked for with the right words, but what lies beneath the request. The need the fight is trying to address, the fear the position is trying to protect, and then building a bridge made of that understanding. Have you ever done something without realizing you were doing it? Have you ever entered a tense situation, said something in a way you might not have planned, and felt the atmosphere change? It wasn't luck. It was the second gift at work. But here's the paradox that Libra rarely names. Transmuting tension comes at a cost. Every time Libra builds the bridge, it remains outside of it. And some of what was weighing down the conflict somehow stays there, inside Libra, looking for a way out. What happens to everything Libra absorbs? How long does it stay stored before it finds a way out? The third gift is the most difficult to name, not because it is vague, but because the world has reduced what it describes to something that seems superficial when mentioned in passing. Aesthetic intelligence. When someone says that Libra has good taste, they are saying something true, but they are saying far less than what actually happens. What Libra experiences when looking at something beautiful is not simple preference. It is interpretation. It is understanding a language that goes beyond the visual, beyond the sensory. A musical score, for someone who can't read, is a collection of symbols on paper. For someone who can read, it's an entire symphony. The score itself hasn't changed. What has changed is the ability of the viewer. Libra reads environments, compositions, arrangements of elements in space, and extracts information from what most people simply call decoration. You perceive the silent emotional state of a place, what is in balance and what is asking for attention without being able to articulate that request in words. But there's an even deeper layer. Libra uses beauty as a tool for transformation. When organizing a space, when choosing the words for a difficult message, when deciding how to present a complex idea, it's not just being careful. It's using aesthetics as a spiritual strategy, as a way to create the right environment for something genuine to happen. When you remove that care from an environment, the difference is immediate. Things become harsher, connections become more difficult, and then you realize that what Libra does isn't embellishment, it's preparing the ground. This gift of using beauty as a spiritual language, of preparing the ground for real connections to happen, is the kind of ability Libra rarely recognizes as power. For a long time, it seems like just instinct, just sensitivity. But when you understand that this is a system, and that systems can be used with awareness and intention, everything changes. The digital book, The Divine Path That Guides Your Zodiac Sign to a Life of Purpose, addresses exactly this point. The difference between carrying your gifts on autopilot and using them with real direction. It's not about developing something you don't have. It's about recognizing what you've always had and learning to direct it where it truly matters. It's the difference between a symphony that happens by accident and one that is composed with purpose. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. The fourth gift is the most frightening. Not Libra, the others. The gift of being a living mirror, the ability to reflect back to people what they truly are, both the light and the shadow, with a clarity that goes beyond what any intellectual analysis can articulate. The presence of Libra has the quality of a calm lake surface, clean, quiet, without turbulence. And it is precisely this stillness that creates the condition for perfect reflection. When the water is agitated, the reflection is distorted. When it is calm, the image is precise. And precise images are sometimes frightening, because seeing oneself with real clarity isn't comfortable. Seeing what's working, yes, but also what's crooked, what's being avoided. Some people prefer mirrors that blur the edges, that make the reflection seem more palatable than it is. Libra doesn't know how to do that, not for lack of delicacy, but because clarity is part of the structure of the gift. And here's the point that few realize. Libra, which reflects everyone around it with such precision, often forgets to look at itself in the mirror it inhabits. She becomes so preoccupied with being a reflection of others that she loses sight of her own image. A gradual distancing from herself while remaining profoundly present to everyone around her. Who remembers that Libra also exists in the mirror? The fifth gift is visceral, and it's the one Libra is most often ashamed of having. Justice that comes from within. not the intellectual justice of philosophers, the justice that Libra feels in its body, like a real physical imbalance when something unjust happens in front of it. This is not an opinion. It is not a political stance. It is a somatic response, something that moves before thought even arrives. A scale that hasn't been calibrated by any external system, that hasn't learned what's fair by following conventions. That was born already calibrated for a sense of balance that precedes any human law. This scale is Libra, and the problem, or the marvel, depending on how you look at it, is that this internal calibration doesn't compromise on convenience. It simply registers. When something is wrong, something in Libra knows, before analyzing, before rationalizing, before deciding whether it's worth talking about or not. But here's the conflict Libra knows intimately. What happens when the justice you feel inside clashes with the rules the world has imposed outside? When does standing up for what you feel is right mean conflict? And conflict is precisely what Libra has spent its life learning to avoid at all costs. This is one of the most exhausting paradoxes that Libra silently carries. Having an absolutely precise internal compass of justice and living in a world that frequently punishes those who follow it. This conflict between Libra's inner justice and the external rules of the world is the kind of tension that silently drains from within. Not because Libra is incapable, but because carrying such a precise compass in such an imprecise world is genuinely exhausting, especially when you do it alone and without recognition. The digital book, The Divine Path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose, discusses learning to honor this inner sense without destroying yourself in the process. It's about the real difference between reacting to imbalance and consciously choosing when and how to act upon it. It's not about giving up what you feel. It's about transforming this sense of justice into strategic strength, not a silent burden. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. And then we come to the sixth gift, the one that completes the system, the anchoring presence. There are people who, when they enter a room, make things feel lighter, not because they did something specific, not because they said the right words, but because something about them creates a kind of safe space, a feeling that the world is a place that can be inhabited. Libra does this, and rarely knows it. The point of balance on a seesaw, the pivot, the center, is not what attracts attention, but without it, there is no play. Without it, everything falls apart. Libra is that anchoring point in many human systems, in the family, in the group of friends, at work. There is a silent grounding role that Libra plays, not dramatically, but in a way that, when it's absent, everyone feels it. Sometimes without even knowing exactly what's missing. But here's the question that deserves silence before we continue. Who anchors Libra when it itself is adrift? Because the gift of creating a safe space for those around you doesn't automatically create a safe space for the person who possesses it. Libra anchors, but sometimes, in the silence of no one watching, it feels like it's floating, without ground, without counterweight. It's one of the most invisible and most real aspects of being a Libra, because these six gifts don't exist separately. They aren't items on a list. They are a system, a unique spiritual system that operates like a living organism where each part feeds the others. The perception that sees the invisible fuels the alchemy that transforms what is perceived. Aesthetic intelligence creates the field where transmutations occur. The gift of being a mirror amplifies the justice one feels, because whoever sees the other with true clarity also sees injustice with true clarity. And all of this is sustained by the anchoring presence, by the field that Libra creates as if it were breath. It's a system that no one else has exactly like this. because it's not a combination of traits that could occur in just anyone with enough effort. It's a specific frequency, a spiritual signature that emerges from the exact convergence of all these elements together in one person. You can admire a fingerprint, you can study it, but you can't replicate it. Not because there's some kind of magic protection, but because it's literally unique. That's why nobody can imitate you. Not by luck, not by divine protection, but because what you are, in your totality, in the complexity, exhaustion, and beauty that coexist within this structure, has no other address. And here's the most important thing this video can say. Libras rarely give themselves the credit they deserve for their own gifts. Not out of healthy modesty, but because these gifts have always felt too natural to seem special. They've always operated silently, without asking for recognition. But recognizing this isn't vanity. Recognizing it is the first step to using what you have with real intention. Instead of letting it operate on autopilot, sometimes producing beauty, sometimes exhaustion, without you being clear about the difference. This recognition that you carry a unique spiritual system that no one can imitate is the kind of understanding that transforms how you inhabit your own life. The digital book, The Divine Path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose, guides you through exactly this process. It's not about what you should do according to some generic list. It's about understanding who you already are and building from there a life that reflects that depth, that expresses it, not a life that minimizes it to fit the expectations of others. Libra doesn't need more skills, it needs more awareness of what it already possesses. This book is a precise tool for that process. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. Ultimately, what this video attempted to do was not explain Libra. It was a reminder. Remember that what the world called indecision is real discernment operating in depth. That what it called diplomacy is true alchemy. That what it called good taste is spiritual intelligence, so refined it seems like a natural gift because it is. That what it called sensitivity is a radar that perceives what no one else is equipped to see. What the world calls difficult to understand is, in fact, impossible to imitate. Libra is not a sign that the world has managed to name with real precision. And that makes perfect sense, because that which is truly unique always escapes the categories we create to organize what we cannot contain. You don't fit into a dictionary entry, you don't fit into a line, you don't fit into a list that anyone can read in 30 seconds and think they understand. And this impossibility of being reduced is perhaps the seventh gift, the one that no one lists because it is present in all the others. Thank you for being here until the end. This recognition you're feeling now has a name. It's called truth.